Gives me great pleasure to introduce Wiel Arets, who is our Harris Armstrong series lecturer. And I want to welcome him back to the school because he was, he's been here several times, but most notably he was the Ruth and Norman Moore visiting professor in spring of 2010, which I'll touch on again. But I want to give a kind of full background of Wiel and I we're working on the second book that we've done together, so I could probably talk about Wiel all night, but I will give you a kind of, some things I think will be helpful, as well as a little bit fleshing his background out. Wiel Arets was born in Heerlen, which is in the Limburg region in the south of, southernmost part of the Netherlands. Very near, this region is very near the borders of Germany and Belgium. He grew up speaking French and German and Dutch and the Limburg regional dialect. Limburg is quite different from the majority of the Netherlands to the north, including Rotterdam and Amsterdam. Not the least in the fact that it is a place where, in fact, digging in the ground is quite possible and quite active because it's for many years was a major coal mining district. So in fact, it's a place where one can excavate into the ground, and to me it's a sort of logical that it gives rise to Arets' sectional concept of multiple zero or ground planes, so that a building should have many levels that somehow can be experienced as a ground level. As with many aspects of Arets' life, his paradoxical, you could say, being from a multicultural but very remote region of the Netherlands has led to his being and acting, in my estimation, as a kind of citizen of Europe and a citizen of the world. Arets attended architecture school at the Technical University Eindhoven, where in addition to his classes, he spent 3 hours every day in the library. Among the writers who inspired Arets, I would note in particular Paul Valéry, the French poet and philosopher, whose lifelong process of self-education, written down in the cahiers, the notebooks. Arets read those in the original French. Valéry's concept that one needs to, as he says, find the right combination, bringing together ideas that are usually considered mutually exclusive in order to arrive at a new and unexpected synthesis, has been incorporated into Arets' own working method, which I have described as a kind of dialogical practice. I would also say that the concepts that were put forward by Viollet-le-Duc in the 1700s, one of which says, we should endeavor to learn from the Greeks. The Greeks invented nothing, but they transformed everything. It speaks of a certain way that one relates to your sort of culture and your métier. While still in school, Arets helped organize, this is in addition to his classwork, helped to organize a lecture series, as there wasn't one, that included Zaha Hadid and John Haydock. He organized the first European exhibit of the work of Tadeo Ando, and he organized student research trips to Paris, Como, Milan, and several cities in Russia. After graduating, Arets traveled to Japan and wrote a series of articles of his interviews and discussions with the architects there for the Dutch journal The Architect on Ando, Maki, Hasegawa, Shinohara, and others. Arets established his own office first in Heerlen in 1984, and then eventually moving the office and practice to Maastricht in 1997, where he still has an office. Today, the Wiel Arets Architects has offices in Amsterdam, Zürich, and Munich. Arets has also had a parallel career, and he will hopefully introduce the recent work, so I will sort of talk about also the parallel career as an architectural educator. First, in the very beginning at the Architectural Academy in Amsterdam, and then from 1988 to 92 at the Architectural Association in London during the time of Alvin Bayersky's chairmanship. From 1990 to 94, Arets taught at Columbia University in New York, which is where I first met him and came to know him and his work. And in 1992, he was also at the Cooper Union, also in New York. From 1992 to 94, Arets taught at the Berlage Institute, which was a a post-professional program that had been founded in Amsterdam by Herman Hertzberger and was actually located at the beginning in Alde van Eyck's municipal orphanage building. From 1995 to 2002, Arets was the dean of the Berlage Institute, and it was during that period that the institute was moved from Amsterdam to Rotterdam. From 2004 to 2012, he was a tenured professor at the UDK, the Universität der Kunst in Berlin, as well as teaching as a visiting professor at a number of universities, including the Universidad Politécnica in Madrid, the Barcelona School of Architecture, the ETSAB, which we know a little bit about here, and Washington University, as I mentioned, in 2010. Arets was the dean at IIT, College of Architecture, from 2012 to 2018. In addition to restructuring the curriculum there and renovating Mies van der Rohe's Crown Hall, Arets also established the Mies Crown Hall Americas Prize, a parallel to the European Union Prize for Contemporary Architecture, which is also known as the Mies van der Rohe Award. The IMSHAP, as we call it, program awards buildings realized in North and South America during the two-year cycles, and that began with the first awards in 2014. Arets' work has been extensively published, beginning with Wiel Arets Architects in 1984, so almost at the, 1989, 5 years after he began his practice. An Alabaster Skin, I'm just gonna give the highlights, Maastricht Academy, Strange Bodies, AZL Heerlen, and also monographs from Architecture and Urbanism in 1994, El Croquis, 1997, C3 Architect in 1998, TC Quadernus in 2013, and most recently, this is where I get my exercise, another issue of C3, Wiel Arets, which this is the copy that will go in the library. I cannot do that, which is published this year, 2022. Among the book-length monographs, there have been sort of more formal monographs on his work. Wiel Arets Works, Projects, Writings, 2002, by Javier Costa. Wiel Arets Works and Projects, 2004, by Massimo Ferri. Wiel Arets Autobiographical References by yours truly, which was a product of his work that he did here at the school. This was actually basically a record of the semester that we taught together and the 5 lectures and the juries and other events. And then a small book, but I think very interesting, the Moleskin series of drawings. There's a Wiel Arets volume in that from 2012. And all of his writings and interviews and kind of theories have been collected together in Stills, a timeline of ideas, articles, interviews, 82 through 2010. It was published in 2010. And he recently, or more recently, authored a book on the sort of new ways of living in the city, or new sort of insights, called The Unconscious City. And Wiel and I are working together on a comprehensive monograph. He's been here this weekend with me working on this to cover his career up to date, to be published by Architectura and Natura during this year. I actually don't have time to even touch on Arets' work as an industrial designer, which is quite extensive and has been as long-lasting as his career as an architect, or his work as an urban designer and urbanist. Nor to mention the extensive list of awards that he's received, but I would mention the first major award he received, which is the Rotterdam Maaskant Award in 1989 as the leading young architect in the Netherlands. And most recently, which hopefully he'll talk a little bit about tonight, the B&A Dutch Architects Award to the Van den Valk Hotel as the best building in the Netherlands for 2021. Though there is much more that I could say about the dialogical practice of Wiel Arets, I need to leave some time for him to lecture to us tonight. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague and my friend, Wiel Arets.
Thank you very much, Robert. That was already a lecture. I hope you're not exhausted by now, but I will try to, I will try to keep it short, which is not easy, because Robert told me this weekend, usually in Naples we talk 2.5 hours, in the north of Italy 1.5 hour, and here I have to do, he gave me 1 hour, so I try to fit within that framework. Yes, I worked on this lecture till about 1 hour ago. I changed it a couple of times, and one of the reasons why I changed it was that I had really 2 days talks with Robert about the work, and also about this school, about students, about what you want to do in your life and what I did in my life. I think what I try to do is I give you a brief introduction of things which keep me busy at this very moment, which is nature is nature, is the topic of this talk, and that's something which kept me busy from the very, very first day when I started to be an architect. And this book by Pliny, we call him Plinius, is for me a very important book. He was trying to make an encyclopedia of all the books, of all the knowledge in the world, which is of course impossible. And by trying to see and to find out what when the Vesuvius start to break out just after, it was 79 after Christ, then he died. But he left a big amount of work, and as in the book Robert just showed to you, actually it's not a book, it's a magazine C3 did. I wrote an article which is called Nature is Nature, in which I quote him, Plinius, but also talking more in depth about what I think is happening at this very moment in our world, where we as human beings try to overrule nature. I think when we talk about artificial intelligence, then what we try to do is artificial, so we can do better than nature. We can't. We are here for just a few years. We will stay maybe on this planet for a couple of years, and then we disappear. And but that notion, in my opinion, is not a notion we are aware of. And so we have to. We should not do too emotional about it. But I think it's important to read also ancient thoughts. Also Egypt, Italy, Greek, Italy is dear to me. I think we can learn very, very much from those years. This is actually the concept of the book Robert just showed to you. I show you Chernobyl. Chernobyl in Russia. It's one of these areas where there was a disaster, and the first which is coming back are animals. And when they did tests over the last 5-6 years, the houses will collapse, but probably in 20 or 30 years, animals start to adapt to the radioactivity. I don't want to say it's not a big disaster, but it tells us something about the world we are living in. And here you see it's a shot on the film Dead Don't Die, and I use one of these. I use this also. It's very dark there. Huh? I use this shot also, or this film also, when Robert asked me to write about Ken Frampton, a book which was recently published. I wrote an article, an Englishman in New York, and trying to describe a little bit from the early days, in London, Ken. Till this very day. So how the world actually in those, let's call it, 70, 80 years has changed. It changed dramatically, and I think we personally know less and less about our planet. We know less and less about what is happening. When the forest is burning, we say, oh, it's a big problem. It's not a problem, because forests have to burn, because that's the reason why the ecosystem is changing, and it's becoming alive again, as you see on the bottom. The insects. So our nature is a kind of cycle. It's a system. It's a system which is very different. And we try to break the system. We try to understand the system, but we don't. And we will never understand the system. And to use bees to make monoculture is simply a wrong thing to do. So we are destroying our world. And as I mentioned last week, when we had the fourth circle of Amsterdam in a discussion, I thought what we are doing at this very moment is very interesting, because data center in Europe in 2030 will need 21% of the total energy Europe needs. 21% of all energy. And we are talking about, how can we save the world? I think we should stop with our data center. We should start to understand that 150 years ago, there was no electricity. People had no computer. People had even no artificial light. But people had candles, and Rembrandt was painting, and Palladio was building, and we were living in a world which was very much different from this world. And whether this world is a better world, I don't say, but we have to be careful. Egypt, you see on the left the pyramids. How can they build pyramids where the ground floor of the pyramid is 185 meter by 185 meter? It's there for thousands of years, and the difference, is 2 centimeters from one corner to the other corner. They knew what to do. They had a knowledge of more than 900 years. They followed more than 900 years Venus. More than 900 years. That means that they had an idea, what can we do in 100 years, in 200 years, in 500 years. And we, in our culture, everything is on demand. We're going to change, we change. When I don't have it instant, it's not what is important. So we do not know a lot about them, but we know that also pharaohs like Tutankhamun was maybe not even 22 years when he died. So we were able to build projects like Cologne Cathedral. We were able to try to understand the world. People in Latin America, throughout the world, were building their cultures which disappeared. And I think it's interesting to study them. I think we can learn a lot. This is actually an image I took and I showed to you, where Alexander von Humboldt, who was very dear to me, and I mentioned Robert yesterday. In 1973, I was 18 years old. I went to Eastern Berlin, where his museum and library and the whole stuff he collected, Alexander von Humboldt, you can see. It was a very interesting day for me. And the crust of the earth, or the skin of the earth, is our ecosystem. It's an ecosystem which is about 35 kilometers. Let's say it's about 20 miles. That's what he was dealing with. You see in his book, Cosmos, I don't go in depth because I go to the work I promised Robert to show you today. But you see images and studies and research he did from the Himalaya, so he understood that the world is not, of course, completely is a sphere, but the earth is extremely rough with the clouds in Lima, and it's something which, yes, I studied for a long time, and I'm fascinated by this. And I'm also, let's say, fascinated by it that he was studying actually, and trying to give us a clue that not everything on top of the earth, of the skin, as we call it, is interesting, but a lot below. Below the earth is so important for our ecosystem. Huh? So when you see this drawing, you see the coal mining industry in the area I'm born. I'm born in Heerlen, and what you see on top, you see mining industry, you see the culture in that part developed between 1897 or 1896 and stopped more or less 1966 when the Prime Minister said we stop with coal mining industry, which is, I think, a good thing. But in that period of, let's say, about 80 years, that area, so 70 years active, and it continued for about 10 more years, that area became a very interesting area. The first multicultural society, people from all over, from Morocco, from Turkey, from the north of Europe, from the east, from the west, they all start to work here, and the mining industry became a center of knowledge. The Technical University in Delft, Paris, Germany, all these universities were trying to not only do a lot of research on this, but when you went to the landscape, you saw from a distance already which coal mine belonged to which country, to which university, because they all were trying to find out new techniques to new techniques. Let me see, I have to take my glasses. To for one was building in concrete, the other in steel. So it was a very, very interesting momentum in time. And I show you an image of an architect. His name is Peuts, who built the Glaspaleis. You see Mrs. Schunck, who was the owner, her husband, and she was the owner of the building. And this was a very, in my opinion, a very exciting building. You see on the skyline I do not know what is happening now. The coal mining, and this is an image of the Glaspaleis. The Glass Palace is there of Peuts, built 1929. The first department store in Holland in this area, and here on the right hand side you see the area where the town hall was built, and he built more than 500 buildings in this city. This is the building we talk about. It's a glass facade which is actually kind of air conditioning glass facade. You see when you open the windows, there's an air cushion, because behind the window there is also a curtain and so on. So I think I could do a lecture on his work, and you see that although his work modernist and so on, he was very, very aware of what the architectural history was about. He was the one who, when Professor van der Laan from the university in Delft, Leiden, who was studying Egypt, wanted to have a discussion, he went to Peuts, because he was known to know a lot about all of that. So these are details of this building, which was also used as a kind of manifestation. This is the Dutch lion when there was a 40-year opening in 1938. This is the IJhal was a magazine. What I decided is to give you about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a little bit background of the early days of my, not when I only study, but the work I produced. IJhal was a magazine I did with Joost Meeuwissen, and till let's say a couple of years after my study, this was produced. And on the cover here is one of the competition entries we did for Schunck and Chico, let's say for Japan. Maki Hara and Maki Hara and Rossi were in the jury, and we got a prize for this. But what is more important, I think, is the idea: how can we develop an area where people could live and work together, and And this was, as I said, something like one of the early projects. Robert mentioned this book by Manfred Bock. There was a series of books made on Dutch architects. And I briefly show you. This is the Academy in Maastricht. And this is a building, is a remodeling of a pharmacy where I did the interior. And all these, an architect willing to take risks was the title of that by Manfred Bock. And these are these early projects I did. Just finished my education and tried to find my language. So what is interested to me? On the left you see a doctor's clinic. Then on the right a pharmacy. This is the entrance of this doctor's clinic. And I show it briefly. I don't explain you, but I simply show what I try to discover. Huh? So to discover how can I make the interior work? How can I make also the whole from the desk till which chairs we select, and this is obvious, a chair by Prové, he designed for the marriage of his sister in 1929. This is one of the very first interventions I did for a friend. This is the entrance of that pharmacy. You see the desk where even, it's really interesting to see now. This is what I took a how do you call it, a cassa account, or how you call this thing where you put the money in, totally apart, and only the display was there, and areas where children could have some speed. So it was a kind of, for me, a way of how can I learn, how can I build, how can I understand. And this is actually more or less the first building which was published. The Belgians, Cotten steel facade, 2 meter by 6 meter big, cotton steel, 8 millimeter thick. I cut and it fit exactly to make this facade work. What you see on the drawing on the left is drawings I made to understand, to make the detailing. These drawings were 3 foot by 3 foot, 90 by 90, and I drew them. Made actually smaller drawings on a drawing board, and on the left I worked on this bigger drawing. So I tried to capture all the ideas in one drawing. And the first, I think, 10, 12 projects, bigger projects, I was producing those in that manner, and that helped me. That helped a lot. So I go quite quick through these staircase to connect all the floors, the cupboards, and this is another building I did. Was a tower in Amsterdam, and on the right you see actually a rubber mold. That was totally new. I thought they asked me to do the tower in brick, and I didn't want to do the tower in brick. So I tried to find something else, and then I thought, why not using simply the glass brick and use the glass brick as the format, as you see on the right-hand side. Then we had the glass brick. We pour rubber on top of it, and this rubber became the rubber mold to make the building. So what you see is actually a building which on one side a kind of big, like a how do you call it, of a ship, a kind of seal, and on the other side three buildings floating. That is the building as it was built in. That's the first living apartment building we did. And you see on the right, you see also that I used only one pattern. So the idea to make this, there's no, so the way to make the skin to continue, but you see already here that there was a kind of pattern. We made one mold, and with this mold we repeat actually all the time. So another pharmacy in that year, which is, it was for me a kind of, I did a lot of these smaller projects, but you see also the concrete with stone on top. So I was trying to, and I got the chance to to do all of this. So glass brick in a different setting, and steel. Also here cupboards, the facade. I flip quickly through. Simply details. So it's interesting. So many years ago, on the left, you see this kind of sliding door, and what we did. I saw these sliding doors are big, so we have to put kind of I-beam on top. To be fairly honest, I'm trying to solve things in a very easy, direct way. But like the academy in Maastricht, I was teaching at the AA at that time, was able to do this building. And again, here a drawing was needed to make this, for me, the building to come to a conclusion. You see this glass brick panels precast, 9 centimeters thick, and there's a bridge. Bridge went through these trees, and on the other side you see the entrance part of the project. This is the routing on the left. You see, this is actually a photo from the workplace building. Just the photo was being taken, and you arrive actually in the bridge. The bridge is has an outside climate. Here we made for the bar. I think school needs a cafe, needs a bar, like the AA, Elvin Boyarsky. You know, it was Cedric Price, 8:30 in the morning, was drinking a glass of whiskey. That's why I was flying at 4 o'clock from Holland to England, arriving at 8:30 just on time to sit with Cedric Price and have a talk. So I think you need a place where you can sample, and these tables are still there. It's so fascinating to see that these tables, you could fold them, you could sit with 12, 13, 14 people, and students are still presenting their work on this. This is on the lower level, the lecture hall, and also here, there was no money, simply no money. But I tried to find the details to make the lecture hall work, and the seats, as you see on the right, is wooden. We were with 5 people in the office at that time, or 6. We were making them. During the weekend, we were pressing them, welding. So I think for me it's important to know how to build, how to do things. This is that bridge again, the lower level with the workshops, wood workshop, steel workshop, and I think it's interesting to see how these different sides. So architecture was there was fashion, painting, sculpture. So it's still a very interesting school. When you go there at this moment, you will see hardly anything has changed. The ceiling is out of wood. It's perforated wood, and it's a very seemingly easy to build building, which is not the case. This is another building from this early period, the AZL pension fund building, which we did. I was able to tell the client not to build a complete new building on a new site. I wanted to, with this building on a very important site in the city, to create actually a ground floor, so an area, a campus, not only for this building. We took an existing building which is partly here. For me, an important building at that time by an architect, and this part I kept, and we wrapped around actually the new building, as you will see here. It was really totally for us, for the office, exciting to do. You see this is the entrance where underneath, you see on the left, underneath the complete glass brick ceiling, under which the archive was being realized. And this window on the front was made because this pension fund was for people who were working in the mining industry, and when they, let's say, when they were pensioned, they came here as well, met each other, talked about the old days. So I thought I have to give them a place. The stair, a kind of open stair, bringing people up, and a ramp. You had three possibilities to enter the building via this ramp, the stair. The stair is not touching the glass brick, so it's actually hovering on top of the glass brick. And there's the ramp bringing you into the building as well. And then on the left, you could go down the stair slope and enter the building as well. This is the when you are in the reception area, you can sit, watch the inner court, and what you also see these panels, which they have the same format as the concrete, perforated stainless steel, and they can all individually move. So I will go through this, but I think it's interesting to show to you how you can build up, let's say, a kind of language. This is the end of that monograph. This is the library building in Utrecht, where you see an imprint. And what when Robert was talking about me being a little bit influenced by the mining industry, it was about the influence had to do with those people knew what to do, taking risks. They were inventing every single day, because they went down and they have never been 1 mile in the earth. What can we do? And this is actually the print I used on the concrete. It's a rubber mold as well. It's a different type of mold we use let's say, on a kind of mold to make the concrete for the inside and the outside of the library. But what I show you before the Basel Dutchman. It's interesting that when we were working also for Alessi and for other industrial design companies, and Alberto did a book on the collaboration on 2 projects. Actually, Il Bagno Dot, and that in Bagno Dot they made. I show you the 2 buildings, the Hedge House and the library, as the background to make the advertisement for Alessi, for the faucets, and we did, I think, more than 100. For these we made 72 products, and they are presented here in the Hedge House in a small museum I did for UIK, Malin Dumas on the background. So very interesting collection. And they put our bus stop inside all the artifacts we produce for Alessi. So I go quickly through this series, but I think it's interesting how Alessi was using actually the background, the idea of installing in a building, in a Hedge House or in a library, things which didn't belong, actually a strange condition. As well, you see on the left Malin Dumas, and in the mirror Malin Dumas, and by the way, the light on top is a very, very thin rubber skin by which we made the light for the Hedge House. On the left, you see the orchidee area for Molise, and the shower. We made this shower with moving. I think it's a very interesting piece. It's too expensive, I would say, but it's very good. It's the Hedge House. And this is, I show you something which maybe none of you have seen before. These parts on the left are toilets, and it's our parts in the Laufen factory. They built all these. They produce all these pieces, and it's amazing to see. And I spent really a lot of time there to understand how you make these molds, how you can make a toilet work, how you can make a bus stop work. And I show you very quick the series of photos. That it's not only you design something, you make a shape or whatever, but you have to make the working drawings, you have to make tests. Is it running? Is it working? And how are your products being produced? So you see here a small wash basin. And as I said, we did a whole collection in the oven, and then you can hang it on your wall when it's ready. It's, I learned a lot from that. On the right, you see a light we did, and then when you produce these products, it's the library. When you produce them, then you start to understand, more about also buildings. For me, when you do a watch or you do let's say a building, a watch is maybe more difficult to do than a building. And this book was done by Marijke Beek. For me, a very interesting book on the library. It's a book where you see all the different panels. We made let's say the library itself. It's a building which for me is more or less a covered outside place. I think that's where you were reading books and where you want to concentrate, where you feel private and public. These things, in my opinion, play an important role when you deal with a library. A library is a place which has to be able to change. You have to, when we have in this library, there were 4.2 million books in stock, in archive. When we started to do it, there were bookshelves and there were tables. People could work, but imagine you take more books out of the bookshelves. You have more space to work, so you have to be totally flexible. The library for me is also a place where you have to feel, let's say, you could stay there by yourself for hours, for a day. You can meet friends. And I think that's part of the library as well. It's a social place. It's a place where you can talk to people, where you can challenge each other. And so on the left you see the printed, the fristed glass, and you see also with the same pattern as the rubber molds we used for the concrete. And you see that also parts of the windows can open, but when you believe they can open only because behind that window is another glass shield. So it's more or less used as sunglasses. And on the right you see one of the first books with a butterfly. It's painted, which Marijke Beek found, and it's the first page of the book she did of what she called living library, which I think is very interesting. Living library. A library is not something which is dead. It's when you read, you can make up your own mind. I was spending a lot of time, Robert said, in the library, and I'm still very much fascinated by books, by thoughts of others. And here you see, for example, right above one of these, and also below, you see the double glass parts they can open and the panels. This is just before all was finished. And here you see the library on the right-hand side. This was also just before finishing. On the right, the parking garage. That's from the deck of the parking, you see the library. So the question also of the client was how to move through a library. I didn't want more than one door to enter the library. So there's one door to enter the library. Then there are 4 doors to enter the clouds where the archive is, and 1 door to enter the special library, the library with particular books which are so old and so whatever that even when the condition we gave in the library was not enough to keep the archive on a kind of humidity and temperature. Although when we start to work on the library, the idea was not to have glass, and because of fritting the glass with 50% and so on, we were able to make quite a big part of the library in glass. Here you see the kind of sculptural staircase. So the idea to have 5 elevators was asked by the client, by all the specialists, and we decided to make 3 shafts and 2 elevators. And I said, everyone will walk. And that happened. They trust us, and it's in that sense, it's still an important building for the library, a key building, I would say, for the development of the Utrecht Library. Here you see this fritting. Now you see that what we did is we use always black and white dots, which are on the position on position one of the glass. So you and then you put it in the oven, and it will stay there forever. But you get this is about 50% fritting, and then this and that is the same. So when this print is used for the glass. This is the original, and you see someone walking down the stair. The small cafe where you can have a cup of coffee or cake or a beer. The floor is gray and it's shiny. One of the reasons is to get, you need actually, because we made the library black, and you need this floor to light shining, and so you can see the back of the book. It gives a certain light quality, and as you see, the elements, the floor elements are standardized by us. Standardized elements. They are 1.20 meter wide, hollow, and 12.60 meters long. Hedge House, it's an interesting story. It's actually a story where in all buildings we make our own program. So a client asks us here, can you make maybe for us a chicken stable, or can you make let's say a small shed for garden tools, or for to grow orchidea? And but he actually wanted to have a museum, which was not allowed to build here. But we could make these sheds, and then the idea was, let us make these sheds, and underneath, so from 0, -1, we make the museum. So we made actually a museum with on top chicken, orchidea, and garden tools. Here you see that area where the orchideas are, a table where you could have something to drink, a cup of coffee. You see on the left the chicken. There were 7 chicken from the beginning, and we designed also this kind of hen and chicken part. And I have to say we had quite a few discussions, and we learned a lot from someone who knew everything about chicken, Barneveld chicken, how they live, and whether they could stay in this environment, and they still stay till this very day. And what happened, of course, when you have the opportunity to make these, let's say, area for garden tools and flowers, then you can make the exhibition space higher. So we sheeted a little bit, but we were able to make this building work, and till this very day, it's a very nice small museum with a garden with a lot of art by many national and international artists. You see on the back, you wonder maybe why the light on the back wall, because we made the back wall double. So by making it double, so light is flushing from the top on the wall. Here you see that the same is happening on the right. On top of this element are the chicken and the orchidea. Is the orchidea room, and on the right you see that we flush light because we made actually the wall double, so it's hanging. In fact, that wall is hanging. So I think a lot of people think concrete can only, you have this idea of steel and concrete and glass can only support this and then the other, but you can play with it. You see Donald Judd It's really a fascinating building. So I show you briefly a few images of Naunis. That was the program I did for IIT. Japan, and also Japan. I think the idea, Japan, where the theater player can play both. He can play the male, the female. It's actually blurring. And I think when these three images, this is actually an image which is showing the Olympic Games 1964. Japan, in my opinion, was doing something incredible. Infrastructure changed completely. High-speed trains, the bullet train, etc. The city has in my opinion, the best public spaces. The ground floor is as a carpet. 30 million people living there, and you can walk everywhere. It's really my favorite place to be when I talk about the public realm. Of course, you can talk about Rome and Paris, but also Japan has a lot to offer too often. So when you see this image, you think it's totally chaotic. That's what Shinohara also was mentioning, the city of chaos. But within this chaos, there's a lot of order, and you find your way, and it's something which still till this very day fascinates me, and also this is, of course, it's one of the most important images, photos for me to be talked about. So Crown Hall, done by Mies van der Rohe, very important for IIT. He was the one who, 1938, came to the States, made, I would say, IIT, and was extremely important for the city of Chicago. This is Crown Hall, and when we came, I said to Verwan, we have to change Crown Hall, not change, but we have to make it. We have to bring IIT. We have to bring Crown Hall back. So let's call it. I don't say there was no renovation, but yes, but we have to bring actually the activity back. There are much more students than in those days. We have 600-700 students, and in those days there were maybe 50, 60. So Crown Hall has to be used in a different way, and we are planning 2 boxes, glass boxes, detailing complete the same as Mies did in the building. They are simply, they are not drilled, they are not fixed, they are loose. And Erik Bolle was writing architecture in the other state. I think it's a very interesting article on what we try to do. Musil is playing an important figure. So in the back, here you see the boxes we position, and by doing so, we could leave the upper floor completely free, and the lower floor we could more or less triple the library. The library on -1 is a fascinating place for students to study, but also the -1 has now 3 smaller lecture halls and 2 bigger places, 2 bigger halls for students to work. So it's a very, in my opinion, still a very attractive place. It's the biggest classroom in the world. And here you see Sejima lecturing, and Erwin Olaf lecturing. And this is Lecture Drive. So I think also here it's important to talk about publication. So when someone is lecturing, he's taking a lot of time to prepare. So I think it's always important to do so. And you see Mies Lecture Drive, Mies here. You see the Hancock building. A lot of these projects they started at IIT. Now you see the framework of Lecture Drive, and I remodeled an apartment there with the inside. Also the frames partly were there, partly not there. So we restored that and made this apartment work. This is I think interesting, because with MSHAP we had Jack Herzog, we had Cisa, but also Sana as winners, and we thought what we could do is to have within the biennial in Chicago, in Town Hall. We had a big model. Sana was working with us on Bronzeville. So how IIT could read his own environment, how IIT could be important for Bronzeville. Huh? There was a lot was happening there. Let's say the last from '38 till this very moment. But how could we help to have a debate about that area? And I think at this moment it's fantastic to see. Fantastic to see how Bronzeville is developing, how people are, the harbor is there, so there is a kind of connection from IIT via Bronzeville to the harbor, from IIT via Bronzeville to the city. It's not done yet, but I think that's one of the things at school you can do. This is, for example, left top is Sejima's. We visited her work while selecting. Left, I think Robert MacArthur is there on one of these tables. We invited 300 people to eat with us in Crown Hall, so it became a big dining room. And on the right, Jacques, with his hat, was explaining students below the Farnsworth house, what the hell is this space about? And that was, for him, such an important question. You see Jacques, Pierre and Jacques on the top, such an important question that I challenged him. And he came to the school back, did a lecture, wrote a piece, wrote a book, Treacherous Transparencies, and said, I didn't write for 25 years, but it's fascinating. I think those are things, and I think the interview we did also with Ken Frampton and with Cesar, with Sejima, it's on YouTube, so you can see the recordings of this part. I think you have to record, you have to print books, because otherwise we would not know what Plinius had to say, what Vitruvius thought, or what Palladius' ideas were. And I think that's a kind of collection of books I wanted to do for IIT. I started, and now the next dean and the next generation is continuing. AMSHAP, the Americas, North and South, Canada, America, but also Mexico and Latin America. And suddenly you see that students at IIT, also Latin American students, coming, they talk, they bring architects in. I think when you like Jennifer Seeger said when we did Hunch, yeah, you have to have a hunch. You have to have an idea and spark, and when it works, it works. This is Sao Paulo. It's part of the publication of this book, The Americas. Here you see the silver mine. These are simply real and existing phenomena. You have to know. The Hoover Dam, 1929, it was there because the dam was needed, and it was also an employment project. I think those things go together. And I did this article, The Americas, a Wonderful World, on Tours a Hybrid Metropolis with Alexander von Humboldt. And so continuing about the second part. So right, you see the last edition of files where I summarized what IIT became. Unconscious City, mentioned by Robert. For me, I did about 40 lectures at the UDK, and this book started as a long interview by 3 students. And these 3 students finished. They have now their own praxis. They publish, I think, yes, young architects are at schools, and they should work with a little bit with architects who are, let's say, try to be also a little bit important for them. So the idea of Unconscious City was the idea how you walk through a city, how you perceive a work outside, inside. What is the public realm? With public realm and semi-public realm and private realm, that is the part of this. That is part of this book. And during the process, this lady, they are 80. She was 88 when I met them for the first time. She and her husband, a few hundred meters from our home in an office in Japan. They stopped in '88. After a couple of months, they changed their store, and in '90 they opened again. And then in 1992, they opened again. They were 92 years at that time. And it's amazing to see how people, till 1989, and I think it's fantastic. We made a small movie about them, asking. I can talk about that for hours, because I think this is architecture, this is urban design, this is what architects can do. And this image is the background, is the back cover. Is a photo I did in 19. This is done in 1992. I remember because my daughter was born in 1991, and I took her to Japan. And this photo, in Kyoto, in the Gion district, where geishas are 154 at that time, was still there. It's part of the tradition of Japan. So Japan, for me, is very interesting. Is a country with a long tradition. It was enclosed. It was closed. It was enclosed. It had a relationship with Dutch. But for me, the tradition. They believe strongly in tradition, and they, on the other hand, believe strongly in everything which has to do with the future. So to give you one thing, I think which is proving the idea of tradition. So all the temples are made every 25 years again. Why? Not because they are done, but because they want to give the new generation the knowledge of how to build a temple, how to make this temple in wood without any, let's call it, tools we need to make a temple like that. So I think it brings me also to the house and office we did in Tokyo. It's the glass you see is a glass we made in Mannheim. Was a commission by Saint-Gobain. And there, I think glass is a very interesting material. Is a structural material. Rob Nijsse, one of the most interesting engineers, we are working on a building with him now. This is glass. Glass is also glass which you bring, and glass is a very sustainable material. It's one of the most sustainable materials we can think. This is the glass. Is our glass, Arets glass, which we use for several buildings. Here you see how it's produced. I didn't know exactly how it worked, but now I know everything about the production of glass. Here you see the fritting in the glass and the artificial glass we use here for the LSE tea and coffee tower project, with silver inside or Japanese liquor, as you see here. This is a house we did on the ground floor. You see, for Mr. Visser, on the ground floor you see where cars can go in. On the right there's a ramp, there's a stair. On the left is an elevator. So this whole ground floor is open air. And then the first floor is the living room and the kitchen, and on top is a workspace with bedrooms. Also the kitchen we did for Alessi. I think it's important to understand how you make a series of products. It's to make one knife or to make one spoon or one. It's easy, but to make a collection, I think that's what, in my opinion. When you do a project, you do a series of projects, that's what life is about. That's also what a collection by Comme des Garçons is. You cannot make one piece, but you have to make a collection and think, what is the next year? What is in 5 years the design we're gonna produce? I think that is something which is important to me. There's all prototypes, and then slowly from the prototypes you make the first steel, and then you start to produce the whole series. Jellyfish House is a project I did for a client, for a Dutch-German client in Spain, in Marbella. A client who wanted to have a house, had a site, an option for a site, and I personally didn't like the site because it didn't fit to what he told me. He wanted a house with where he had a view to the sea. He would like to hear the sea. A house where he could live his whole life, in effect, because this is a holiday house for only 3 weeks, 4 weeks a year, and he wanted to live outside. None of these houses in this area, in a very interesting area, I have to say, have these conditions like when you make what we did, an upside-down house. The pool on top, glass floor. His children can swim. He can be outside on the veranda. But then you have to make a 9-meter cantilevering piece, which rests on one column. Actually, is a column. This column is actually the piece. So you have this is the weight. It's extremely heavy, of course. You see that the water can run over this fringe. So the water is collected here. Then this piece is held by this column, and then it's tied by two. Let's say. Steel, two steel cables which hold it. It's when we built it and presented it, the government told us we had to wait for 3 weeks. They were looking when there is water in it, it's the dynamic force and so on. This house will collapse. I did it with Rob Nijssen. I think we knew what to do, and but it looks easy to build. You see the kitchen. You see in the kitchen. You see the window where you can watch people swimming. And here you see the side of the house, very close to the sea, in Los Monteros, extremely green area. It's really a fantastic place. For me, it's became the favorite place in Los Monteros. This is the entrance. The door is open, but you can drive your car in the garage, and then you walk up, or you can also walk just behind in the door left. You can walk also here, and go in the garden to the guest rooms. Guest rooms, of course, can also enter from. But I think it's always important to have when there are guests, they can do whatever they want. His study, the living room, and the garden, and because this house was there in front, so I thought we have to build this on top, and it's all poured concrete. It's nothing else than poured concrete and glass, and so this is done by two brothers, a father who is, and they came from Madrid every 2 weeks. Then they spent 2 weeks here, a long weekend in Madrid, and that's the way they built the house. This is actually outside condition, so this stair there's a stair is outside, and here this stair is inside. So and this is again behind this glass is again inside. So there's a kind of complexity where this stair is mirrored going up outside condition. Here you see the jellyfish. The idea to see things swimming in the water. Okay, jellyfish. Small joke for our client. The pool overflowing, but I think it's so interesting when you swim here. All these houses have beautiful tiled roofs, but the green, the sea. This is, by the way, you can look towards Africa. So this is really an interesting site. These two made the house, and I learned a lot from them, and that's interesting. You know, you draw, you think you know, and then you make all the decisions, and then yes, we knew what to do, but you make a drawing, and then you have to also understand that people have to build, have to make your piece. This is a one-piece concrete structure, and every single mold fits exactly. You know, we drew so where all the molds have to be. That's we do always, and they make it work. There's no mistake in the building done by them. I'm so fascinated by these guys. Now you see it when it was under construction. You see that one column I'm talking about is the rear. So the column is 9-meter cantilevering. The column and then you see the piece here and there, which is taking the weight. The guest rooms were here, so you could come as guests, you come here, and then you enter here. You have your own patio. This is the bedroom for of the client, and this is the outside, the big canopy with the trees we could cap. It was, yeah, so this is before cleaning. So when you pour the concrete, then you start to clean. You have a small brush and you clean, which takes a while, but when it's done, it's you are happy. The pool, lower part, you see the living room. Here you see that particular column. The municipality didn't believe it would be enough. The water, which will go in a piece of glass here. This is one of the guys. And we had also shower. So it's and all of this. When you want to have water there, you have to think when you design and you draw. It's not something you can decide halfway through. So when it's done, it's done. So there's no detail you can say, okay, I do it later. There's all decisions have to be while you're drawing. And that's I think we have some experience from the very beginning. I learned how to deal with these issues. You see when the concrete then is finished and you see all the joints, I think it really works. Taiwan, I'm nearly there. I think this is 58 minutes now. I need 10 more minutes, Robert. Is that okay? I try to do my best. So Tainan was for us a very, I think, Robert asked me to speak, and will it be built? I would say now, maybe not, but you never know. There are two buildings we thought would never been built, and then 2007 we designed and we thought, we worked on them, and now we heard we start building. So you never know. Architecture is sometimes a slow mechanism, but this is a very complex project. The project I learned a lot from, and also for projects we're doing now, it was an amazing experience. It's a project with there's a museum, there is offices, housing, and I show you I think three drawings of this one. This is one. This is the ground floor, which we really animate. I think the ground floor is the most important part, and I have to say, I was walking in the city of St. Louis a little bit, also in Chicago, and walking in Amsterdam, and you think, and you ask yourself, why is an architect? It's a shame when on the ground floor, on one particular point in your building, there is the excuse to make a back door. There is no back door. When we make, I show you in a minute, Van der Valk Hotel, 260 people, they have conferences, they have dinners and so on. You don't find a back door. In the morning at 7 or at 6, they have to bring a truck in the building, unload it and take it out. But when you ask people, where is the truck entering the building? I know. But you only know when they push the door, because it's simply part of the facade. And it's next to the main entrance, but you don't tell. And that's for me a typical thing to do. Oh yeah, this is the back door, or this is the, yeah, we have to. No, it's easy to solve, but you have to think in advance. Huh? And for example, this building as well. It's in Germany. We do. It's 110,000 square meter. Robert asked me this weekend, what is the status? So the left part is done, and the right part we are working on, and we start building by the end of the year. It was a competition we won, very complicated, but I wanted to animate that road. The road, this part, I spent a lot of time and energy, how people go here and bring program in there, but not program like, oh, I do shops and I do, no, a program which is there in 50 years still. So you can it's not, you cannot solve the ground floor only by saying, oh, I put a bakery shop there and I put a, no. When there is no need for a bakery shop at that position, it doesn't work. So what we, for example, these are the inner courts. In the competition, we introduce these courts where 110,000 square meters, you know, there are working 6,000 people at least. So these people need something. So when you already bring ground floor condition and with your creativity, you need lobbies. There's so much you need on the ground floor which animates, which is not the back door. So when you ask me, where is the back door of your building? I can tell you. But the back door of our buildings is not the worst place to enter. And here you see that project. And as we drew it, it's for 95% done. It's another project, so I'm heading towards the end. This is a water theater. It's a building for a client. I'm gonna meet our client on Friday, this Friday again, and we did this for him. This is actually a boat. So this water theater, we built actually a boat, in a boat, and on the boat this is being built. So when this theater is this is in Amsterdam, and the idea is it can go to London, it can go to Copenhagen, and so on. So this can move. This is a big challenge, and we are doing. We are working on a second project for him that stopped at the day more or less COVID, when it was the decision that theaters, you know, you couldn't go to the theater. But I hope that we can start with that very soon. This is, as you see, it looks like stainless steel. It looks like cotton steel, but it will be a glass building. And so the idea of being on the water, being maybe in Holland, sometimes it's not anymore the time of Bruegel where we always had ice, but it would be great to be able to walk to the building. But this is for sure a possibility. So when you go and enter the theater. And this could happen there. And this as well. I show you this, only two images of this project in Ravensburg, which is an office building. We used a lot of glass and we are extending it. But you know what is interesting, since we did this project, and here is the railway station, this whole part in the city is not in a good condition. This part is very good, it's very interesting, the old city. So now we are working with the city on this. We are making a park here. So the idea is to make a park. So they gave us a commission. We are working on this the whole COVID period. We were working on that, and I hope to be able to make an extension for this project here. It's the Schwäbisch Media, is a publishing house with TV, radio, and newspaper. But it's a starting point for a new development, and I think that's interesting. This door is opening. It's 12 meter 40, and you ask yourself how you can open this door. Huh? Yes, that's a question. This is Allianz, about 800,000 square foot. A big development for a big, let's say, area development is called Richti. This is by Dudler, or a little bit on the left is a building by Lampugnani, and we did with five architects. We did at the end 5 buildings, but the urban planning was very challenging. So we didn't know exactly what the program of this tower was. The city wanted what we call in Switzerland a tower. It's not what you call a tower in the States. But they thought in hotel, and then we started to think hotel it became Allianz, an insurance company, and we were able to make this pond. We did this part. 4 bridges are being built here to connect this whole kind of city block. So we had 1, 2, 3, and this, plus the -1. So here you see this city development. You see the railway station is there. Lampognani did this building, is housing, with a very nice inner court. Schnepeli, Dolph Schnepeli, Doodler, Diener, and now I forgot number 6. But this is a tower, is the highway. This became a very important area for the city and developing. There are more developments going on now, and so also is housing. So in Switzerland, when there is a railway station and they want a development where the public realm is the first thing to think about. So here you see the plan, the tower, the bridges, the Richtig Square we did, and this is now it's occupied by one client, 2,400 employees, but you can enter through here, inner court. You can connect. Then you go through Lampognani's, Vittorio's. So you can make movements. You can sit here. So the idea to animate the public realm. But when maybe in 30 years or in 40 years, this one firm is not there anymore, you could also start to break up the building for different clients. So I think you have to think on a second life of a building. A lot of times people say, yeah, the facade you can change. I think this facade hopefully will not be changed for the next 100 years. I'm quite sure, because I think we made the #1 facade in the world. And I will say something about that. And the ceiling. So this is a building without air conditioning. And this is a building where the air is being in a natural way distributed by a perforated by a ceiling, which is from out of perforated steel. So you have to think about a facade, not it's nice or it will be changed in 20 or 30 years. What is the structure of your building? How the building can have a second life? How you enter the building? For example, this building you enter from the square. You enter, you make a kind of curve. And this is the same here. So you don't enter the building like this and look through, but in this case, and this works very, very well. So you create a kind of islands in this area with a staircase at this point. So here you have these 4 bridges. You see the glass. This is all glass. We made this completely out of glass, and by making it in such a way that this part of the glass and that is one partie. This is fritted glass, a curtain, 16 centimeter in between another curtain, and it's vacuum. Every single second, there is a kind of very, very, very small machine somewhere. That's the only machine I like to have in this building. It makes it vacuum, and by doing so, we can create the first really zero energy building in cooperation with the accumulation and the ceiling. So here are the bridges, these 4 bridges connecting, completely covered in glass. And you see this. You see the curtain there. The curtains can of course close, and these parts are. This is actually it's forming one element, but it's much too big for a truck to be transported. And here I go a little bit quicker through this. Here you see the curtain in between. You see someone making this, working on the ceiling while constructing. And also here, the ceilings have a pattern, and I repeat the pattern. Also, so I think the idea of this pattern, that the pattern becomes a landscape. Here you see one part of the ceiling. It's water running through. You can close it, and these are 135 centimeter. And here you see the pattern of in the corner of the ceiling. You see the double, the glass, double glass. These are these entrance parts here and there. One, and the entrance hall, and the staircase you can go up. This is the lower, this is -1, where you have the car park and some other programs where we use for a particular period these wooden columns. So we could take the whole scaffolding down, saved three weeks of production only by putting these columns up there. So I think this is, these photos are done by Bas Prinsen, an ex-student of us from the Berlage Institute. And I think it shows really the idea I like to develop for all the projects. This is the 2 photos by Bas. This is a project in Cologne, a remodeling of a facade. And I show you the project for Rotterdam, which is a housing project, urban housing, where we were able to make really different apartments in the city of Rotterdam, partly furniture, whatever, these chairs or whatever. But I think it's important to make apartments like this where kids and dogs and people can live and feel happy. And it's, by the way, a building which is next door, Breuers. I didn't say Robert yet, but it's next to the Bijkhof of Breuer, and I had to go to New York to convince them to give us permission to build at this particular spot. This is the kitchen of one of the apartments. These are simply apartments for rent, and it's urban. It's a small apartment. I like this very much. The apartment here is a very small apartment. You can close and close, and it brings me to Japan. A house in Japan. You see how dense the city is, how amazingly dense, and the houses in this very central neighborhood next to Omotesando. Omotesando is 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes walking, and we build in this kind of system. And you see, it's sometimes lower neighborhoods. It's the park. In this case, it's symmetry, very important symmetry. And here you see the house. And this is a small parking spot. I will go very quick. You are not, hardly anyone is doing a -1, and no one is doing a -2. The ground floor, so we could park here. This is the ground floor. The first floor, which is the living area, the bedroom, with a small terrace. And the staircase runs here. So you see the house, you see and this is a tradition, you do a house, so they put some rice here before you, and they put these small trees, and this is the site. And then the first time I went there, when they start to do this, I got nearly a heart attack. You have to understand that none of these houses have a real foundation. So this house literally has no foundation. There is actually nothing. And then we start to, the contractor, he had a task and he fulfilled his task, So they were welding and they were preparing, and I had to be there, and it became scary. It became really scary. I think, what the hell is happening with the house next door? So we had the construction to only made a pit was more expensive than building the whole house. And the houses they didn't move. I had no clue how the guy was, but we did all the drawings and so on, but the structural engineer and the contractor, I can tell you, I think they were doing a great job. Toyo Ito was there, so Toyo was also saying, "Oh, yeah, that's interesting what you're doing." And you see how, you see the site, and you see how they really take care, always cleaning and making everything work. This is the house finished. You see All of this is, these are sliding doors. So we made this triple facade. All of this is glass. So the glass, this glass and that glass, the same glass, is only treated differently. So here the glass is as it is. It's the glass we did in Mannheim. But this glass has on the inside we put, and that's something I learned from Gerard Richter. And since the glass has kind of structure, we put paint and then we sprayed it again. And then when you look at it, the glass from a very close by, it's not flat. So the color is really, really changing. It's amazing. It's really amazing. You see how this is really has a pattern. And this door, of course, all of these doors can open. And this is a small piece of glass. And this is the only light I get in -1 and -2. And when you think there is no light, maybe you're right, but I challenge you. So here is the ground floor, the car. This is the sliding door, and these are these glass, small glass pieces. The staircase is not that big, but it's occupying quite an area. The kitchen, and all of that is also done for the house. So this is our neighbor. She's always taking care. Amazing lady. And the door is closed. The door is opened. This is the area where we eat. And here you see this is again, this line is simply continuing, even when it's under. So these things I think are very important to me, how this detail works and how we deal with a house like that. The staircase, which is without railing, not allowed to. No American is allowed to enter, because then we have a problem with insurance. But so there's, you have to sign that when you enter that we don't have problems with lawyers. So you walk 5 stories. It's amazing. How the contractor was working with us. I have to say a lot of respect. So all these parts, also no railing here, so you can sit here and you have a fantastic view. All these windows can open. Also, you see here the window. This is open. So it's like all the Japanese houses. There's sliding doors, and there is never a railing in Japan. This is the only railing in the house, but that's part of the. It's here, for example, when you sit and you open the window, you have a fantastic view. We have a small Shiba, and when you look from here to the cemetery, there is this famous film by the Shiba and the film, and the dog is being buried there. It's 300 meters from this share. So it's this is a small bedroom, which is here, bedroom. This is the the bathroom and the kitchen. You see, this is where I'm always working. It's not big, but here you see the bathroom and the staircase. All is curved, but still in the pattern. We were asking maybe too much, but this is the furniture you saw in the very beginning, and the lamp, the light. It's this is the 5-story staircase. This is the living room with the. I'm now looking from when I'm working, and we are working. So now other people are there, but from the office. But all it is open. So this and that is open. You can simply jump 1 floor down, and it gives you such a freedom. It gives you such an incredible feeling of being part. This is the lower floor, and you see this is the glass, and it's amazing how much light is going through. Because the reason is simply that when you have the glass here and you have 40 centimeter, 30, 40, 50 centimeter which flushes the wall. That's what I learned also in the Hatch House. You can have so much light in -1, and it's these are these bedrooms, and also we built this wooden bars, which is normally in Japan, and see how much light is entering here. And this is not it's not that we were outside with a light or something. It's simply it works like that. Huh? It's like when you have a slit somewhere, you position it at the right, and you know how to. Then it's and this, of course, is small wooden. It's always water in, and you put a top on it. Huh? So I think these are different sections. Oh, we made so many sections here. It's amazing. Okay, I show you this, the aluminum, 16 millimeter. It's in a rough area. Rough, I mean not rough like, rough means an area with a lot of old industrial going on, and they keep it and they remodel it in Switzerland. This is HOEs. And here you see the aluminum, it's 16 millimeter thick, and we perforated these flowers. And to do so, we had to make a machine. So this whole procedure and the facade is actually more expensive than, I would say, the whole house. But we had this idea, and the client totally supported us. So this is part of the machine which we built. And normally they are doing, they are doing prototypes for cars and so on. It's an amazing factory, and you see, to make the facade work, it's really a big challenge. You see here this is a hole, 16 millimeter, and here we made a stamp. So to do this, the whole pressure was, I think, 8 or 9 meters of pressure to make this work. And what I was not aware of in the beginning when we tested it was that when you do this, then on the other side, I thought when you have it like this and you have an imprint, but on the other side, the pressure was so heavy that on the other side, there's a slightly different print. And it's interesting to me when you have an idea, you do it, and then while working on it, you discover that something else is happening. Huh? It's amazing. And this is the house, just finished, nearly finished, and you see all of this aluminum we use also for the sun shading and for everything. And these lights are not of these flowers there are also there because I think that is an area where when you don't have the sunlight entering at that point, and wind blowing, it's a dirty area, and so it's not decoration. I think for me, to do things like that, or this is simply open. It's not it's not kit or whatever how you call it, silicone. Here you see the stucco we had to do here. And then we have the stucco here, the concrete is this one. And these details for me, and also the rubber plinth is something we use quite a lot. This is a very special floor. So I think trying to make things work is something. This is the entrance with a staircase which goes to the car park and to the car park and to the +1. We were very happy with our client and with the contractor that we could do this aluminum building. Here you see these bigger flowers which became lights. So we made lights, and the whole entrance part was drilled with these, and the gate. So it was a big challenge. A small house. This is the structure of the house. And this is the interior. It's all concrete. And then we start to make the interior for our 2 friends. All curtains. Here you have the stair coming up. One is sleeping here, the other is sleeping here. They have an area to watch TV, and behind here is one door and that's the toilet. Here you see this area to watch TV or whatever, the stair, and here's the bath in the bedroom, and this door is this is the bath. Also, this column is freestanding, and then the toilet, which has a nice view to the garden. Snow. I don't know what I have more, Robert, but I think I show you quickly this. It's one of the last buildings we finished. It's a building for the HOEs. This whole area is a very, very interesting, popular area in Zürich, close to the railway station. And to make this building, they had to take two, how do you call it, trucks away, and we had to make 2 tunnels. And they asked several people, also Swiss architects, and no one I think they dared to do it. And we said, okay, we can do that. So we made 1 tunnel. You enter here, and this is not finished yet in this door, because this is all glass. So this is now, there was paper on top, but it's still glass. But you enter here, and then you go, a tunnel is going down, but also it's connecting. There are 2 tunnels, and one is connecting the whole infrastructure, electricity of the area, and the other is connecting all the traffic and the loading from this point. So this is the ramp which brings people to the first floor by foot, but it's also the area from 1 floor lower where you enter the building, and it brings all the trucks down to deliver goods for the whole area. It's complicated to explain maybe, but it's this is the entrance for the delivery, and I challenge you to go and to see. But the building itself, this is all made in polished and aceted and sandblasted a material which it's not concrete, but it's made like concrete, and then we put acid or sandblast or polish. And this polishing machine was not existing in Switzerland, so we had to convince. They wanted to polish it by hand, but we insisted that it's better to find a machine who can do it. And then we helped the contractor, and that was the first time they were using this. And here you see the entrances with folded. You will see that this is during construction. During construction, here you see these entrances on the ground floor, where all of this is still during construction. You have these entrances here. We made them out of certain borniert. I even do not know the English word for it. It's a German word. But this is all made. So this perforated part with glass doors, these entrances. I think it's really for us a big challenge. Show you the building itself is this polished terrazzo with the double glazing, with a curtain in between the glass. That's something we use here in a slightly different way. Here you see the roof terrace, and that is the side where it is, with this very interesting Europa Allee, the lobby on the 3rd floor. Here you see the facade. You see how people were making the facade. It's and you see this is polished. This is with acid, and parts of it, it's not on this one, are silk screened. You see also the roof. That's the entrance. You enter here, for example, and then this is the ramp up, and this is a ramp for display. This is this inner court, all just before finishing. This is the core. So the core where the elevator is, but all of these cores are made in the same way as we did the facade. And the very last, finally, I do quick, is the Van der Valk Hotel. This was a site, exactly this triangle. And the idea we had was when we have rooms on this side and that side, and rooms here and there and there and there, we have 1, 2, 3 courtyards. So we can have all these fantastic rooms, but a client, when you show him a hotel that you shop off this and you shop off that, they think, okay, it's not working. But we made it work that these became the special areas. And I think we have 256 rooms, of which none is a room you don't want to stay in. And that's, I think, a big challenge. All these rooms are not all are different, but rooms with where you have maybe like kids want to be in a bed on top of each other. So we made these rooms. Also, the interior is different, but it's fascinating to be in this hotel. So the ground floor is a restaurant. The entrance I'll show you. Here is the parking, but the parking has program. So there's a lot of program in the parking till there. So there is artists are working there because of the bookkeeping of the firm is there. So there's a lot of program in the parking. So you park your car, you get out, you go to the lobby, you go to one of the different floors. This is the real entrance then. Let's say the entrance with the restaurant and the lobby and so on is, and the Congress, and here are the rooms. And it's not that it looks like they are different, but really we make the feel of the building in that sense special with a wellness area on top. And we made special lights which we put behind the glass and the curtains. So at night, all of these lights give a particular sensation. So here you see the room of the hotel. One important detail is this one, because the floor normally this frame goes there, but by shifting and by putting on, so this is the ceiling, by putting the curtain higher, we could use this area as a bench, and this bench runs through the whole hotel. And even here, the bench becomes a big sofa, so you can sit here and watch in your room. So you can watch actually the bathtub, or you can watch your friend here, but you can also sit in this area and watch the city. You can, so it became actually out of, let's call it a challenge. We made something the client is very happy with. So here you see this kind of big sofa, and this is in all these floors, and it's in the middle of the room is the bathtub with. And here you see this section of the hotel, the parking, Congress, but also the way we dealt with the, how you call it, the heating and cooling. Of course, no air conditioning and so on, but I think the heating and cooling, we try to make this the highest, not only this label, but I'm not that much interested in labels, but to make it in a way that we run this with low energy. And that's also one of the reasons why we got this award. It's the first time that ever a hotel got an architectural award by the BNR, which is the Royal Dutch Association for Architects. And they give one prize a year. So this is the entrance. And what you see here, this is a big screen. It's a big video screen. So when you arrive by foot or by taxi, you enter, you drive in, then the taxi can drive out, but you have this big video screen there. So here you see this. I could explain, I could talk about this building for the next hour. Very thin floor. So we had a system of pre-stressing, post-stressing. It's really interesting. Here you see the entrance, so you enter, so the car is going around, or the car is entering and going up, and you see this is a lobby. So we put all these mirrors in the roof. This is, by the way, the entrance on the ground floor when you have a drop off for your taxi. On the other side, there's a drop off and the possibility, and a restaurant. And this door is the delivery, what we call the back door. So when there is, so this door is big enough to be opened. They open, and then, so this part runs in this direction, and that part runs in that direction. So when a truck in the morning at 6 o'clock, 6:30 enters, the truck drives in, is unloaded, everything is happening inside, and the truck is leaving. And it's for me, I think I'm glad to show you this detail. These details for me are extremely important. The car park here, but you see also the program here. So there is a kind of conference room here next to where, and we can build when the cars are gone in a couple of years. You see, we made these details that we can put this structure everywhere. So, and of course, our columns we made specially for our client, flower columns. This is during construction, and I think it's really, here you see, for example, on the car park, you see the whole installation, so you can go in. This looks like a showroom. You see exactly where is the cold water, the warm water, what are we doing here? It's a clean room. It's like a very clean, technical room. Stair bringing you from the reception area up to the Congress. And this is the building. And these are projects we are working on at the moment. Bahrein is this facade. In an area where there's only air conditioning, we make a non-air conditioning building for 9 months a year for those. Qatar, also here the whole ground floor is animated. And these are the apartments on this project. And I think the 2 more drawings for the Friedrich and Karl building in Cologne. We won this competition. It's complete wood building. We're going to build by the end of the year. It's 56,000 or 54,000 square meter. Let's say 600,000 square foot. In terms of scale, you see how big our share is, and it's really a project. I'm very happy that we won this. It's a big step in European, let's call it, development of office building, and this will be occupied by the German ministry. And Robert, it was too long, but I think, and I didn't show all the work I had to show, but I was happy to be here, and and this is where I was last week. Thank you.